Pretty much the situations that I've seen from my experience where this is going to happen is it's going to be who crosses the line first.
She's currently got me locked in the garage because earlier she broke both of the big doors, and then when I came out here to fix it after getting in the house earlier, she locked the door behind me. And then when I said,
"What was that?"
It's the Comm Center with Drew Breezy. Joining us as always is your podcasting host with police benefits, Lieutenant Andrew Baxter, as he's known online on the internet as Drew Breezy. I'm John. I'm an actual 911 dispatcher. I've been doing this job now for about 9 or 10 years. Let's jump into this case. I want to refresh everybody's memory by taking us briefly through the 911 phone calls. I'm going to play them. This is a truncated version from what you heard last week. Colin called a second time, and it was during that phone call that everything took a horrible turn.
Emergency. Hi, can I have a police officer? My husband pushed me up against the wall and threw me on the floor. And he said, "You have any so bad?" Yes. Does anyone have any weapons? Yeah, there's guns in the house, but no. But nothing in anyone's hands? No. Has anyone been drinking or using drugs? No. Okay, ma'am, where are you in the house? I'm in like the kitchen master bedroom with my 104. My older son. Yeah, with my 4-year-old. Where's your husband? He was in my daughter's room. Okay. Lady, are you okay? Okay. Are you able to stay in that room until the deputies get there? Well, yes, but I don't want him to take my daughter. If he's going to throw me around in the room, you're with your son and he's with your daughter. What kind of car does he drive? A red truck. What's your husband's name? Colin Turner. Is that Collin? Yes. Okay. About how old is he? 33. Okay. Are there any other adults there? No. You said no. Okay. And how old is your daughter? 3. And how old is your son? 4. 4 years old. Anyone else there? No. Your office emergency.
"Hi, you guys have been out to my house twice today, and then most recently the deputy talked my wife into letting me in the house, and then she locked me in the garage and tried to break my arm when I was trying to get back inside. She's currently got me locked in the garage because earlier she broke both of the big doors, and then when I came out here to fix it after getting in the house earlier, she locked the door behind me. And then when I said,
"What was that?"
"You just got me."
So the dispatcher ends up hearing 3 more shots, calls out to him. He never responds. Deputies arrive on the scene. It's very shocking. It's hard for a dispatcher to hear. You can never unhear it. We talk about the vicarious trauma of just having to hear things. Can you imagine a domestic dispute in which perhaps male or female is trying to live stream this as evidence of what's happening to them because the police never believe the other half, as so often or could happen, and then a dispatcher has to witness something like this? As if hearing it were not bad enough. But what are your thoughts initially on what the dispatcher had to go through before we circle back around to Bree?
And if you didn't see our episode from last week, do yourself a favor and go back and listen or watch. I covered came from a paper that I wrote, basically. And one of the things I uncovered was Dr. Michelle Lilly was a 911 dispatcher. She's done extensive studies in the profession, the contributing factors to why that secondary trauma or that vicarious trauma is so intense is because of the background noises that a dispatcher hears. And it's not just, you think about it too, it's not just when you're on 911, the background noises of hearing like those gunshots or whatever, that's bad enough. You're hearing screams. You can't get through the phone to help anybody. So you have a feeling of hopelessness yourself and you're trying to, get somebody to help them as quick as you can. You also have background noises behind you of people yelling and screaming like, "Hey, can you get me the information about how many ambulances we need?" This is just another prime example of why we need to lift the voices of these 911 dispatchers across the nation, because they're perhaps not getting this. First of all, they're not on equal ground with the rest of the first responders as they should be. A lot of agencies in the country are very quick to call dispatchers non-essential personnel or just refer to them as the civilian sector. Yet, when there's a natural disaster or a big hurricane bearing down on everybody, all of a sudden they become, completely, they become like the most valuable part of the team, the most integrated part of the team, because they can't do it without the dispatchers. So what they ended up doing here, and some, like Tampa Police Department put out a post, they answered like 15,000 calls during the hurricane, which is an amazing amount of traffic, over the phone. Somewhere else in the Bay Area mandated all of their dispatchers to come in. They worked like 6 days straight, like they slept there. And it really wears on you. It wore on the responders. So imagine how it wears on the people who you don't treat like responders. And as it relates to this case, this poor 911 operator may have been sitting there doing a Sudoku puzzle, and a tone goes off in her ear. 911, what's your emergency? And she's talking to this guy having a normal conversation, and she's like, what was that? And he says, she just shot me. And then she hears what she heard the first time 3 more times. So you can hear it in her voice. Her tension raises immediately. Like he said, he just got shot. I feel for that person. I feel for that woman. Obviously, I feel for the victim, but I feel for that woman.
I feel bad for Colin. I feel bad for Bree. I feel bad for the kids. I feel bad for the family. But I will say that when it comes to Colin and when it comes to Bree, they were locked in an argument all day long that either one of them could have walked away from. The one person who was invited to this party who definitely didn't want to be there was that dispatcher, and they got welcomed into the family drama, and they had to get locked in until a police officer could get there. And that phone call after the 3 shots goes on for quite a while. And one thing that's funny about hearing a shot spontaneously happen on the phone is that you're not sure you just heard it. Like you're like, what did I just hear?
Yeah,
it's surreal. Like you're like, no, that was something else, or I made that up, or like that's a fake memory. I didn't even hear that. And then you hear it 3 more times, just like there's deadly certainty. And then of course, knowing throughout all the different phone calls throughout the day that there's several kids there, we're just extremely worried about them, and not hearing anything else from Colin while police officers race to the scene. Ambulances are put on standby and other resources. But we covered most of the 911 stuff in the previous episode. Do go back and watch that. But I want to dive into the body cam portion of this. When police get out with Bree, she was just recently sentenced to life, and the coverage on her was interesting because when she's seen in the courtroom, she's frequently seen smiling. We're going to see some interesting stuff on the body cam when police make first contact with her.
We're going to back up just a little bit. There was a series of 911 calls where Colin actually calls 911, but before he was removed, he called 911 a couple times. Well, this is the body cam from the first call, because there are a lot of questions about what the police did or didn't do.
Hey. Beautiful day. What's that? How are we doing this? Gonna come inside? Come in the garage?
We'll talk to one down here.
All right, so they approach, they walk up. He's sitting there in a lawn chair, sunglasses on, just relaxed, kind of showing, like I come in peace, sort of. Or he's at least wanting to intercept them to give them, kind of a lowdown. He asks what they're going to do, and we'll talk about what their plan is in a second.
I'm assuming that's your wife or the other half, fiance, they call this.
Wife, yeah.
We talked to you guys separate. His daughter thought you wanted sign, or when he was going to sign, talk to you.
Yeah, I put my big dog in the side room.
Okay.
But point you down. She's got a shotgun and her pistol in the bedroom with her.
Okay.
And my pistol is on the dashboard of my truck. I'll put it there all pretty for you.
Okay, you stay out here, man.
I'm just opening. There's a little dog running around.
So he's making very sure that they know that there are guns in there and where they are, and that he's a responsible gun owner in the sense that he doesn't want them to think any less of him, and or that there aren't going to be any surprises, which is a good move in a sense.
Go all the way to the wall and then turn right.
Her name's Bree.
Her name's Bree. She's got both the kids in there with her.
So the process is to separate the two combatants, basically, get their stories, and then what you'll do from there is eventually you could do it one of two ways, but normally you would just separate them. You each do a quick interview with the party that's in front of you. Then you swap. You just kind of tag team. You go in there and you do an interview with the other person while your partner does the interview with the person you just interviewed. And that way you can keep them separated. Sorry to quote The Offspring. And then you both get together and from there you compare notes. When the state of Florida tells you by statute you need to determine who the primary aggressor is, first you need to determine that a battery took place, and then you kind of figure out who the primary aggressor is from there. Because here's the deal, and this is true in life anywhere else. There's one side of the story here, one side of the story here, and then the truth is like somewhere in here. They're both going to have a skewed version anyway. There's a reason for it. Talk to your partner and average it out. So when the officer approaches him, you can see that he's in that posture of, look, I got nothing on me, but the officer noticed something in his waistline. It was his keys. He'll go on to say, I don't even have any pockets. And as Shakira would say, hips don't lie.
I seen something sticking out. Yeah. I don't know if it was a key or what was going on.
I put on nice shorts with no pockets.
Okay. So why don't you give me a rundown on what happened during your argument?
All right. So, you want a summary or you want my detailed notes?
I want you to tell me what happened and why she called us.
She called you right now because she figured out that I want to take my kids to my parents' house in Georgia for her and I to have more for me. I guess me to have a break from her. A little bit of backstory. In March, she tried to kill herself and did inpatient. After she was inpatient and then she was outpatient group for a while. She got kicked out of that group and then went back in, Baker acted a second time for suicide. And there she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Are you familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder in March or April. Got kicked out of her first therapy group, got kicked out of her second therapy group, and she skipped her last two individual therapies.
Okay. Well,
let me give you a quick interrogations technique. He asked him what happened here and why are we here with this argument. He gave him the whole story about why she's a little bit off of her rocker. It's to set up, or it's to build his own kind of defense, or at least, give himself an out or whatever. He's not necessarily being untruthful, but he's giving a lot of detail. So it could be a sign that he's hiding something. It could also be a sign that he wants to give the full story before we get into the minute details, because he knows the officers are there, that they want the information and they want to get out. So he gave a full background.
Just to what's going on today, because that's not being rude, but that's irrelevant to what's going on right now as far as she called us.
Yeah, so about 11 o'clock last night, she wanted to watch TV in the bedroom while the kids were sleeping in there. I didn't want her to, because we were all sleeping. She got mad and stormed out to the living room and watched TV out there. Tried to talk to her out there. She told me to go away, so I went back in the bedroom. 10 minutes later, she comes in the bedroom and says, "Get out." I say, "No." She says, "Now." I say, "No." She lays down in the bed with the other three of us and turns on the TV. So, for context, we normally watch it at 10. She turned it at 30 until like 1 a.m. I turned it down a couple times. Eventually said, "Look, if you don't turn it down, I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off of this TV." She turned it up. So I turned the Wi-Fi off of that TV. She said, "Really, you're going to be vindictive?" I'm not being vindictive. I want to turn it down. At this point, it's 12:30 or 1 a.m. or something like that. Everybody's sleeping except for you, and you want to watch. You ever watch The 100?
I've heard about it. I haven't sat down and watched it.
Explosions and people scream. Okay. It's not a nice.
The 100 is some kind of post-apocalyptic TV show. I've not watched it. They've got 4 kids in there. They're acting like kids themselves. Battle of like, I'm going to turn the TV up while I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off. And it's just going back and forth. What is your experience of what somebody should do in a situation like that?
Well, firstly, like what you're hearing, they're talking on to these police officers in person is exactly what we also get on 911 as well when they're calling. When both people know that when the police come out, that the police are going to hear both sides of it, this guy knows that she's going to have a rational story about why he's a bad guy, whether it's a made up story or what. He knows that he's going to be painted very bad, whether, he pushes me, he hits me, he pushed me up against the wall. But as the police officers approach, they get this complete, nonchalant, non-belligerent, good guy image. Hey, my gun's in the car. I don't have anything in my pockets. My hands are up. I'm relaxed. I'm cool. It's and now he gets in the store. He sits down in front of him and he's trying so hard to be relaxed when this is a tense situation. He's trying so hard to paint himself as being the imminent good guy beyond question. So we know that when they talk to, just based off of this, I know that when they go in and talk to Bree, they're going to be getting a rather bad story about Colin. And you're right, but when he puts in there that she's had a previous suicidal attempt, that she's diagnosed with borderline, this is all designed to discredit her, and saying she got kicked out of therapy and all this, is that she's a dangerous and irrational person. And he's laying all this down so that the police are more likely to believe him.
Sometimes you have to have that conversation, man to Marine, right there. Look, I know that you're frustrated. I know what you're trying to do by telling me these things about the story, but let's stick to what happened. And what is she going to tell my partner happened? And sometimes they come off with, well, she's probably going to tell you that I pushed her, but I didn't mean it.
So anyway, she says, I'll show you vindictive, and goes out in the living room and puts around for a while, and then comes back and puts on like a rap pop music station on her phone, blasting that, and she goes to sleep. I'm laying there with the kids, and that was at about 1:30, 1:47, I think. At that point, she was snoring, so I'm like, all right, fuck this. And I would have gone to the couch before, but she wouldn't let me take the kids, and I don't really trust her with the kids when she's like this. She was sleeping, so I took grabbed my 4-year-old, or I went out to pee, took my 4-year-old to the couch, and then she woke up, started yelling at me again. So, what are you doing? I'm taking the kids to the couch. The fuck you are.
And that was all.
What's that?
Last night, right? Rolled into this morning.
Yeah, this is probably right around 2 a.m. at this point.
Okay. So what happened today, causing her to pick the phone up and call? I guess she called 911. I didn't look.
She found out I was I was packing my car.
That's what the upset was.
Yes.
That you're going to Georgia to see their grandparents.
Yep.
Okay. And she didn't and she's was she allowed to go? Did you plan on her coming?
No, I didn't plan on her coming.
Okay, you're just gonna do it, take a break?
Yeah.
And they're your kids, right?
They're my kids.
Okay, y'all are married, had kids.
Married.
They're your blood.
They're both of our kids, and then I have a stepdaughter who's probably gonna be here in about 45 minutes from school.
Is he's saying, look, I don't want to put up with this wild yelling at me at 11 o'clock at night. I want to take the kids and get out of here. And I want to go up to my parents' house in Georgia, which, if they're in North Florida, it's probably, 3 hours away, or who knows? I don't know where in Georgia. His body cam is probably the way he's facing. The guy he's talking to, Colin, is probably seated to his left. He's keeping his firearm. He's probably a right-handed deputy. He's keeping his firearm away from Colin. That's how you talk to people. It's called the interview stance. And so he's probably bladed so that's the perspective you're seeing. Now, when it comes to the kids and custody issues, there's no real parental abduction until there's a court order that says he can't take the kids, or, those kids that they have in common belong to both of them. He's trying to do what some might say the right thing by getting them out of there and bringing them up to the parents' house with him. But, she, on the other hand, is probably a little bit worried about the propaganda that's going to be spread on the way up, because they've both demonstrated a little bit of juvenile behavior, in my opinion.
And she is, my stepdaughter is fully hers legally, and her dad lives in Alabama, but he doesn't have any legal control. And she told me before, if Kylie's my 12-year-old, she said, if you take, I can't stop you from taking the little kids because they're yours, but if you take my 12-year-old, I will press charges on you. Oh, fuck, so I have to leave a 12-year-old with you to be borderline. So, after she had said, I'll show you vindictive last night, I thought she meant she came in and put the music on. I found this morning my laptop was missing. So I'm looking all around the house for it, and finally I'm like, wait a minute, the dishwasher was running all night. Put my fucking MacBook in the dishwasher. $2,500 computer. And then
It's unfortunate.
cut me off from all the credit cards she has control over. She's the primary breadwinner in the family. And yeah, I said, you washed my $2,500 computer because I turned off your show? No, because you controlled my access to the Wi-Fi. That's also not a legitimate reason.
Sure.
So this is the start, well, I guess, culmination of a long bad path.
Okay.
And it's not healthy for the kids to be around it. She's made repeated comments to the kids, the 3 and 4-year-old, since, well, today.
Well,
So the police are coming to save us because Daddy hurt Mommy. No. First of all, I didn't. Second of all, you don't tell a child that.
sure.
So,
What's your name again, man?
Colin, C-O-L.
So the second officer comes out, the second deputy comes out, and he's going to have a little conversation with him. It probably is inappropriate to drag the kids into this whole thing by saying the police are coming to because Daddy hurt Mommy. If that's something you share with the 911 operator, that's probably not something you should, especially when you're using terms like Daddy and Mommy. And so and what he's saying is correct, by the way. There are no parental rights for a step parent. The parental rights for a stepchild go strictly to the biological mother and the biological father. The step parent has no control over any of that. So when she said, if you take these kids, I can't do anything. If you take my daughter, I will press charges. That's accurate. In case any of you are wondering, Florida has this marital property situation. So those two are married. The children are theirs in common. Either have say over what the police can't get involved in a matter like that. A judge can, but the police can't. To include the $2,500 laptop and throwing that in the dishwasher, yeah, that's dirty. If that were your neighbor's laptop and you threw that $2,500 laptop in the dishwasher, that's something called criminal mischief. That's a felony. It's considered marital property, therefore that's half of hers. So she washed her half of the laptop, basically. So you can't be charged or held liable for your marital property until a judge has decided this belongs to you and this belongs to you. It's complicated, but that's just kind of the way Florida does things. I know that won't shock a lot of people. I think it's like that in a lot of states.
L-I-N.
Colin?
Yep. I think they ran both of them in this card. Was at any point in time, did it get physical?
I told you I tried to grab my daughter last night, and she got physical and stopped me. So I backed the fuck off at that point. That kind of allegation is the last thing I need. So right here.
I don't know if it's bad news or good news for you. Y'all are married. They're your kids, and you said your stepdaughter?
Yep.
So that's her kid?
Yep. I don't. Do I have legal rights?
Not unless you went to court and took over guardianship with her.
So that's the real thing. If I took my stepdaughter with me, she could press charges.
If he doesn't have is that correct? If he didn't go to court and get legal guardianship over?
Because technically the actual father is going to be the baby daddy, sperm donor, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
So
he's not in the picture, but if he didn't go to court, then there's nothing we can do. Now, your blood kids, naturally.
that's going to be civil. We're not going to get them
Yeah,
in the middle
I can't.
of the portal.
I can't take the kid from her and give him to you. Can't take him to you and give him to her. So nothing I can do about that.
If she
Civil.
wants to take the kids, or you want to take the kids, we're not going to get in the middle of it.
Nope.
But you guys aren't going to argue about it, especially while we're here.
That's y'all stuff. Y'all's truck. Y'all are married. I don't care if it's just your name on it or just her name on it. It's y'all stuff. You're married. It's called marital properties. I can't control the kids. Like I said, the laptop, it's marital property, man. It sucks, but
Oh, I know. If I didn't already know that, I would have fucking called you guys then.
yeah. And there's not a whole lot we can do with it. If she wants to go in there and get the crap out of the truck, can't stop her. You can't physically, grab her because
I don't have to give her the key.
that's gonna be a problem. You don't have to get the key. No.
Better stand off to the side and let things cool off, and then later you guys get back to the
Situation was gonna happen
Well,
with
would
this.
do, and if it weren't for all her mental health issues and diagnoses and suicide attempts, then I'd walk away and let her have the kids and have space that way. But I'm not going to leave toddlers with somebody that tried to kill themselves twice over the last 6 months.
That's up to you, man.
What to
Oh, I know.
and before I get too far from the tangent, Nothing physical. You guys just arguing back and forth verbally.
Yeah.
So nobody pushing anybody.
No.
Nobody trying to hit anybody. Any reason why she would say maybe that you did batter her?
Because she has borderline personality disorder, and it's a textbook thing for people with that disorder to do is make false allegations.
I get it. You want to fill the statement at all with me? You don't have to. You just have to offer it. You want to
Well, here's a couple just constructive criticisms for that deputy there. Look, I'm nobody. I wasn't there. I could just tell you if I were his field training officer at the end of it, I would tell him, look, or a supervisor, look, don't give them the option. If you want them to write a statement, just hand them a piece of paper and a pen and say, hey, would you mind, or just write this statement out, or tell me what happened on paper from last night to today. And 9 times out of 10, people are going to comply. The 1 time out of 10 they don't, you can probably finesse them into doing it anyway. But it's not necessary if there's no arrest. It's a good idea. It's definitely probably more on the necessary side if there is an arrest, because you definitely want to document. You want the victim in her own words to say what happened, and the husband in his own words to say what happened. But when you start telling people, hey, look, would you mind filling this statement out? You don't really have to if you don't want to. What do you think they're going to say?
witness statement?
Yeah, I'd love to fill out a witness statement.
I'll get you one. You need a pen?
See, he's apprehensive. He's like, hey, man, you don't have to if you don't want to. He's like, I'd love to.
Pretty much situations that I've seen from my experience for this is going to happen is it's going to be who crosses the line first.
Boy, is that not the most poignant statement.
So it's going to be somebody's going to get mad enough, someone's going to shove, someone's going to grab, someone's going to jail. So it would be best for you to give space. I would tell her, if she's saying here too, y'all need to give space. Can't make you do it. Can't make you leave. It's your house. But it's going to be the first who crosses the line,
Look, it sucks, man.
Yeah. Well, we can't be getting too far into people's lives. I mean, if a crime occurred, yeah, good to go.
This goes into the police report?
Yep. There's going to be a report. That's it.
Do you think, I just have to ask you, do you think that they're being impartial? Do you think that they're partial towards Colin?
Well, that's a good question because it's given me pause. I think that they might empathize with this situation because he's had a good conversation with her and he sees where this is going.
I think that's important, though, because then his plan, if he has a plan in terms of how he's conducting himself, his demeanor, has paid off. If he's garnered any sort of empathy from them whatsoever, they're supposed to go in there and they're supposed to be dispassion towards both parties. If Bree, of course, is a basket case, or she's emotional, or she's high emotions or whatever, and she doesn't garner as much empathy, and he's got this ultimate chill, laid back, shucks, this really sucks for me. I understand you officers can't do anything. And this officer appears to be, at least at some level, assisting with the report or whatever.
I have to warn you, though, I think that they have empathy for the situation. So if she were asking the same questions, I think they would give her look, had I not followed this law enforcement path, would have been to be a Major League Baseball umpire. When an umpire squats down behind a catcher and the catcher, catches the ball out of the strike zone and pulls it in, and he calls it a ball, he's gonna ask the ump, like, where are we at? Is that your zone today? Are you on the line here? Is he not painting the corner? So in other words, it's the umpire's job to call balls and strikes, safe route, enforce the rules, stay impartial. If the player asks you, though, why did you call that something, you're going to answer them. So just the same as the next pitch comes, it's clearly a ball in the inside. He calls it a strike, and the batter turns around and says, what gives? Is your strike zone now wide? He's still going to give an answer. He's still remaining impartial. He's that, you know what I'm saying? He's not necessarily giving advice either. He's just saying, look, that first one was a little bit low for my liking. This one was on the inside. He painted it, and the catcher moved the glove into the strike zone. It's a strike in my opinion.
Hey, JP, you want to go to Grams and Gramps or no?
Skateboard.
Did not like that.
Asking the kid what he wants to do in front of the cops. Don't like it.
Did not like that. And it's on the body camera. So, I mean, you know, this is one of those, like, the judge would be like, okay, I'll allow it, but I don't like it.
All right, you want to read this and make sure you got everything in there?
Again, it's a very bold statement to make on a body cam. It's a bold statement to, it's a bad practice to be in. Let's just put it that way, whether the body cam's on or not. When you tell your partner, hey, you want to read this before we get out of here to make sure it satisfies all the, you know, all the elements of the crime, basically. And that's not what he's saying. He's just saying, you know, you want to make, he just wants to make sure that it's A to Z, that it's all covered in there. The way he's framing it, though, and the way a defense attorney is going to tear that apart is that these officers were, you know, they knew what they wanted in there, and they just turned around and made him write it. He would have written anything to get those kids out of there.
Raise your right hand for me, Mr. Collin. You swear to affirm everything you told me is truthful.
Okay, so the reason I left this in is because in all felony cases where I worked, in the jurisdiction where I worked, in all felony cases, you're supposed to take sworn testimony. I believe in domestic cases as well, because this would have been a misdemeanor if it were a misdemeanor battery. It's always been my practice, and so first of all, make them raise their right hand to swear them in. Do you swear all the information you get? Do you swear or affirm all the information you are about to give is true and correct? Because when you do it up front, that eliminates some of the BS. And when you do it up front, it also tells them, look, you're about to give sworn testimony. You know, I can swear you in. I'm a notary by virtue of being a deputy sheriff. So do you swear or affirm the information you're about to give is true and correct? It's just an afterthought sometimes. They're like, oh shit, I need this to be sworn. Hey, do you swear everything you just told me is true? And the people are going to be like, yeah, because the out would be, I don't remember what I told you. That's basically what they would ever say if they were called.
And what if they say no after the fact? Just case in point, like no, I can't stand by everything that I just wrote on that piece of paper.
Yes. I'm gonna give you both the business cards. All right. If you guys need anything, call us, okay?
Can I get a copy of his statement later?
It's all part of the report.
Notice she just came from the truck. So I know that he's already pissed because he said he wasn't going to let her in the truck, but she found the spare key or something. And she was doing that while the deputies were still there. So maybe that was a good thing, maybe not. The final thing is he said, Miss Bree, I'm going to give you a business card. I'm going to give him a business card with the report number on it, which should end the conversation. But instead she says, can I get a copy of his statement? Like, what I mean, he answered it correctly. Like, it'll be in the report. Like, here in Hillsborough County, by the way, we separated the interviews and we separated the statements so that one party or another wouldn't get them. This is the aftermath.
Prosecutors say that she killed her husband while he was actually on the phone with 911. Joining us now, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, good afternoon to you. The jury heard some key testimony today or yesterday.
Mind you, this is during the trial.
I guess it was involving that 911 call.
Well, hi there, Ted and Julia. Yes, so while they're on a lunch break there in Florida, it gives us an opportunity to revisit some of that compelling evidence that the state put forth yesterday, which includes that 911 call. And boy, you certainly usually do not have a 911 call like this. So kind of taking you a little back. So
I'm glad they acknowledged that. I mean, it's...
Well, they said it for sensational reasons. They're like, you won't believe the 911 call that Court TV's got.
It's not necessarily true either, but I'm glad they at least acknowledged it.
That day of the...
But, you know, they stopped short of saying there's somebody on the other end of that phone that took that call.
Incident. 3 911 calls had been made. Bree had called, and then her husband had called 2 times later. The police at the time didn't do anything. They were talking with them, trying to understand exactly what took place, got statements from everyone. And my other...
This is the body cam. I found this very interesting. This is the body cam of when they arrived at the scene.
There's four and three. And they're in that house too.
Did you search her already? Hold on real quick. We're going to search you, okay? Hold on in here real fast, okay?
Okay, for those who can't see this, she is one deputy has a hand on her shoulder. These are separate from the deputies that showed up there earlier. They have her at the back seat of a patrol car. They're getting ready to put her in, but they're going to search her first. One has a hand on her shoulder. The other hand is probably from the same person on her right wrist. And she's in shock, basically. She's as white as a ghost. I don't know if that's how she normally looks, but
1,000-yard stare. Yeah,
she's got a 1,000-yard stare.
He's got the shoulder and the wrist, so that if she starts resisting, he can push
Yeah.
her against the car and wrap the arm around behind her. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm fine. I just took my kids and my husband.
Are the kids in the house?
No, they're with the neighbor. Christy and John Curtis. Any other? I have nothing. Anything on you that I need to be aware of? Nothing. Anything in your bra? No. A bra on? I do have a bra. Just gonna pull apart, make sure you don't have anything in it, okay? It's a nursing bra.
So I think that's an important point too. She's got a nursing bra on, which could be a
Indicates she's
postpartum
had a kid
situation.
postpartum. She's also got a lot of kids who are all about the same age, 3,
Yeah.
4. She's having these things back to back. I mean, it's possible
she's tired.
Yes, there's that. But I mean, it's possible she's been in a mental health crisis for a long time.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you know, like, I'm not taking her side. I do see that there might be an explanation for some of her behavior. It's not an excuse for her behavior.
He was dead. I saw him and I tried to help, but he was dead.
Excited utterance. Nobody asked her any questions about it. She says he's dead. I tried to help him, but he's
also
dead.
a statement against interest too. So it's going in.
Yep. And so you would hope that they would just kind of shut up and listen, but let's see what happens.
Well, let's not talk about that right now, okay? My kids
Let's not talk about that right now.
don't have a dad or a mom.
She's basically saying, look, I just ruined my entire family. I killed their dad. I'm their mom. I'm going to prison. And, you know, and they're discouraging her from saying anything else.
What do you think about that as a field supervisor? Because in one sense, they're having some compassion, like, lady, like, this is the critical moment. Don't say anything against your interests.
That's what I think that's what it was born out of. But at the same time, I can tell you, having been an interviews and interrogations instructor for as long as I was, teacher for as long as I was, people are very intimidated in these big cases when the suspect starts talking and they haven't been advised of their Miranda rights. But if you're not asking them questions, you let them blab all you want. You got a recorder going right on your chest.
Yeah,
just let them keep talking.
This is the prime example of a time where you would not say anything, and as she starts saying, like, I killed him, I pulled the trigger, he's dead because of me, through my malice of forethought, and through, you know, the cause of his death is my actions. Like,
you
she
will literally
says that. She, you know, literally goes through all these things. You know, it's just like, you're like, hot damn, this case is I'm gonna make lieutenant for this. You know, like, that's,
this is pretty slam dunk.
Yeah.
And it's my fault. He's right. All right. For right now, we're just gonna do this for right now, okay?
Just for your safety.
There is a balancing act that you have to do. You know, I'm friends with a lot of homicide people, but there is a balancing act where you're trying to at least keep them happy and keep them comfortable, so that they're cooperative when they get to the detectives. But you also, and this is the advice for either the 911 dispatcher or the new cop out there, or the cop that's intimidated by when somebody's telling you stuff. Hey, it's fair game. Just let them talk. And the worst thing that can happen, if you inadvertently ask a question that gives incriminating information, that statement may be thrown out. that statement may be thrown out.
And the,
So
the
a
worst
detec-
thing that could come out of that, though, is that it's a huge tree trunk, obviously, that a lot of stuff comes from.
Fruit from the poisonous tree. Yeah, like
so
the detective is going to repair that at some point, though, as long as she's never said anything about an attorney, or she's never said anything about I don't want to talk or anything like that.
There's
The
also
detective can
inevitable
repair that.
discovery that would fix it. I mean, she hasn't said anything that they're not going to be able to figure out from the phone call, from going in there, ballistic evidence. That, I mean, it's all going to corroborate what she's saying anyway. So
You also have a dying declaration over the phone of she just shot
she
me.
shot me. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a murderer.
So listen, you're not. Listen to me. You're not under arrest right now. You're being detained. Okay. While we investigate.
No, you should arrest me. I killed my husband.
That's a pretty deep statement. You should arrest me. I just killed my husband.
Hell, she's gonna make lieutenant. That's just great advice.
that would look good on a thumbnail.
Hopefully I just shot him. Maybe he's not dead. He should not be dead.
Well, it gets even worse because she's like, hopefully I just shot him, and hopefully he's not dead.
She double lock her up.
How come they're not going to get him? The ambulance. I think they need to talk to you too. So will the ambulance go get him?
Is that there?
So, interestingly enough, when you propose this battered spouse syndrome, that could complicate things. Her complete confession like that, because her concern is like, God, I hope they go save him. If this were battered spouse and you were in that frame of mind, it would be like, I eliminated all of my problems. I eliminated.
If you'd said, "Yeah, I'm finally safe now. Me and my children are safe," that would be.
I mean, it's obviously complicated, but.
Is a question here in this case as to why wasn't more done. There were 3 911 calls made that day. The third one obviously is the one that you heard those shots fired. And one of the things that Bree does say to police during her police interview is, why didn't the police do something? Why did you have the gun when you went to the garage door? Do you know?
I just wanted to go. Why did they arrest him when I called the police? Why did they arrest him? I didn't want him dead.
I wasn't out there.
I told them.
So a lot of unanswered questions in this case as to why maybe police didn't do more. We've seen the video. We've seen them there at the house. They were asking questions, asking Bree if she had any marks on her. They were saying that it's just hard for them to take one person's word over another without any kind of evidence of some bruises, and Bree didn't have any at the time. So we're going to have to see where this case goes and if she does end up taking the stand to tell the jurors what took place.
All right, so Jon, the outcome is that she was convicted and that she was sentenced to life in prison. So she was correct. Her entire family is broken up now because they don't have a father. They don't have a mother. Who knows what will happen on appeal? Very emotional stuff from the father of the victim in this thing. Colin's father got.
Oh yeah, I was listening to the victim's impact statements. Heart-wrenching stuff.
Yeah, it just gut-wrenching, and this whole situation is sad. This all lends to taking care of yourself, kind of. Even at the stem of this, he said, I had a $2,500 laptop. She threw it in the dishwasher. She cut off my credit cards. She's the breadwinner. Those are, to me, key words that indicate that their arguments are financial. Their arguments are financially motivated. And that happens in law enforcement a lot, too. That happens with the low pay of a 911 dispatcher. So when you mix PTSD, or when you mix untrustworthiness or all these other things with financial problems, that's when the pot starts to boil over, and that's when you get to that point of no return. So it's just an overall lesson in self-care, in my opinion.
This is maybe one area where we both also have some other experience. You prior being Air Force, but also me being a Navy brat, is that service members go through this stuff. Separation, the stress of service. He retired early from as a Marine. He was a disabled veteran. She was chief. I'm not sure, what his, he was in the Marine Corps. I'm not sure how high he went, but he was in school trying to get a degree in electrical engineering, and he's at home taking care of the kids. And so the dynamic that he has with protecting the children and what she has versus going out and being the breadwinner and the male machismo, I'm going to tell you that we could progress as much as you want as a society. It still impacts a man when he's not making as much money as the woman. They say you never ask a woman her age, you never ask a man his salary. These things we can do whatever you want to do in 2024. I don't care. This is just how it is. And I could just see all those things boiling over, and very unhappy marriage too. So there's a lot of empathy to go around. And who else I feel bad for that maybe hasn't been mentioned? We mentioned the dispatcher. We mentioned all the sailors, the Marines, everyone that was affected kind of in their circle, their family, the fathers, but also the police officers got to be feeling something. They went out there and their hands were tied by the law itself. Maybe they want to intervene. They could give some good advice. They could point them in the right direction, but you got to remember, they've got civil rights. She's in there crying to the police. Why didn't you arrest him? She's putting some blame on the police. The police cannot make a false arrest. This lady on court TV, and perhaps some people watching, be like, those police officers did wrong by not arresting. On the prior episode, we explained how every state has its own statutes on how domestic violence arrests are handled by a police department and what a police officer could do. And I'm sure the police officers feel like, hey, if I could have detained a guy in a jail for 24 hours or something, and he'd still be up walking around and raising his kids, that would have been the preferable way to go. But now they have to deal with this. I'm sure they got caught up in this case. They're obviously important witnesses, their statements, everything they got involved. They got jammed up for a long time, and they've probably also, if they're just normal human beings, they got some guilt or some sadness about it. So
this is classic of policing in 2024. It's classic of policing in 1998. It's a matter of those guys are going to second guess everything that they did. They're going to be second guessed. All of America is going to second guess them. Like, why didn't you do something? Blah, blah, blah. And what they'll completely overlook is there was an angry wife with mental health issues that had a firearm in her hand and shot her husband in the back 4 times. For some reason, she gets taken out of the equation altogether. And somehow the burden gets shifted to the police, and it's not fair.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching the Comm Center this week, guys. Have a good one. Drew, you stay safe. There's probably another hurricane coming towards you any old time.
Barreling down to Brickashaw Ferguson.